Chapter 13. A package, Celia said when I caught up to them. Her nose twitched with excitement. In the post office. From Maggie? I took a breath. It must be. We had never gotten something from the post office, not once in our whole lives. Michael Mallon was there in Ballally, Celia said, and they told him. We looked at each other, Celia reaching out so our hands met. It was a long walk and the road was stony. We kept to the edge to walk on the soft weeds that grew next to the hedges. As the road twisted, we caught glimpses of the sea below and the Strand still filled with people. More people I didn't know. People who didn't live in Maiden Bay or even nearby. They will strip the earth, Anna had said. And the sea, I thought, watching fishermen jog each other as they tried for a catch with ropes and bits of string. Granda said there was a world just like ours on the bottom of the sea, where the Shi planted potatoes in the sand and drank tea from tiny shell cups. Horses galloped past their houses on the way to a sea city. Granda had said if you bent your ear to the water on a dark night, you might hear the horses neighing. I'd always meant to bend my ear to it. I stood there for a moment until Celia tugged at my arm. Hurry, she said. At the top of a small hill, Ballally spread out before us. The church, the rectory, a row of houses, and in the back of the hotel, someone emptied a pail of dirty water. A crowd of people had gathered in front of the bakery. They were begging for food. Some were mothers with tiny babies in their arms. Babies with big eyes. Celia hesitated. I took her arm. Try not to look. We had never been inside the post office. Could we walk in by ourselves? We peered in the window at Brennan, the postman, and back of the counter. Another man was there too, gathering a pile of envelopes for the hotel. Patch was the brave one. Before we could stop him, he pushed open the door and was inside. Sean was next, looking back over his shoulder at us. I put my head in the air so Celia wouldn't think I was afraid and sailed inside and back of the other two. There is something for us, I said. Mr. Brennan looked across the counter. A package. Yes, Celia breathed. Maggie. Maggie had sent us something all the way from Brooklyn, New York. Mr. Brennan pointed to a box on the shelf. It was scribbled over with writing. Bits of colored paper were stuck to it. What was inside? What could it be? I tried to think. Could Maggie have pried diamonds out of the Brooklyn streets? Did the diamonds belong to everyone? Could you do that? Would we be rich? I'd give Anna a coin straight away and more besides, much more. I'd get back the Mallon's Karach and tell Liam I was doing it for him even though he hadn't let me come with him. I'd buy Patch penny candy and Granda a jar of pochine. But first I'd buy food. We'd eat and eat. But maybe the box held warm things to wear. Granda was cold all the time. And a shawl for me, one with fringe. Red it would be, my favorite color. Or food. I had to laugh at myself for thinking that. Laugh as I felt my stomach folding itself together. So hungry. What food could be sent all that way and still be good inside the package? No, I was back to diamonds. That's what I would hope for. But Mr. Brennan didn't reach for the package. He looked out the window at the people gathering in front of the bakery. They were begging, yelling for food. Someone threw a rock through the window and the people climbed in over the broken glass. The baker, a cut on his cheeks, slipped out his door. Then he was outside, running down the street away from his rolls and his bread and his penny buns. In a moment, everything was gone. The shelves were bare, and outside the people tore loaves of bread into chunks, fighting over them, trampling each other. Celia and I backed up against the wall. Patch buried his head in my skirt, and even Sean Red stood there, hands dangling, his eyes wide. I rubbed my fingers over Patch's back, feeling the bones, tiny as Biddy the hen's. Don't be afraid, I whispered, trying to not let him feel my hands shake. The police came, 3 of them with clubs and whistles, but there was no one to arrest. They had disappeared up the street and into the alleys. I turned back to Mr. Brennan. Our package, please. I didn't dare hold out my hand, but I asked in a determined voice as I received a package from Brooklyn, New York, America every day. But Mr. Brennan shook his head. You said it was ours. What would happen if I reached the counter and grabbed it and ran? At last he took the box down. I tried to see by the way he handled it, was it heavy enough to be holding diamonds? They could be small ones, tiny ones. I began to smile. But he showed us the bits of colored paper. Not enough stamps, he said. There's money due on this. I shook my head. I don't understand. Celia moved forward. It is for the Ryans, she said, for Granda and Nory and me. It's from Maggie, you know that. He raised one shoulder just the slightest bit. You'll have to pay what's owing. I shook my head. We don't have coins. We have no money. And as we said it, he slid the package back across the counter. I reached out and touched it, and the paper slid away under my fingers, the paper and the bits of colored pictures. I almost caught it by the string, but then in the blink of an eye, it was up on the shelf. That's not right. My voice was quivering and my chin unsteady. How cruel he was. Worse than Devlin. Worse than the English. That's ours, I said. Ours from Maggie. And then I saw his eyes, and I knew he was sorry for us. I will hold it for you, he said, leaning toward us. I will keep it up here on the shelf as soon as you get some money. It will be forever, I said. I will keep it here for you forever then, he said. We stood looking up at the package, Celia, Sean Red, Patch, and I. Celia was crying. I tried to say something to make her smile. Tear bag, I said, but I could hardly get the words out. What's inside? Patch was asking. Is it something to eat? Someone else came into the post office, and Mr. Brennan made motions with his hands, telling us to go. We walked home slowly because I was still trying to think of a way to get the package, slowly because it had started to rain, a cold fall rain, and the road had turned to mud, slowly because we were so hungry.